Hey guys, it's Hayes with CheatSheetPros.com. Today is Sunday, March 6th. I'm going to go ahead and do my NBA game-by-game breakdown and show you the plays on our cheat sheet that are looking a little bit different than our models. As always, the plays we're looking for is anything that leans over. If it says lean under, if you want to do some research on it, that's fine. I typically stay away from unders unless I have a really strong feeling for it. And then differences of 7 points off of Vegas and our model. So our main model is going to be right here on the cheat sheet, and then the differences are going to be right here. So the bottom is going to be the total, top is going to be the side. So you can see here this has Pelicans by a difference of 16, and then this says lean under. If it says lean under, I just kind of stay away from it. The other games are games you want to earmark and take a look at. And what we've done on this sheet is we've pulled in the last 10 games. We've color-coded the double-digit wins and losses, green and red, who they played, home, road, so you can get a good idea of the team. Again, there is a heavy weight on our main model up here on the last 3 games, so teams you have to be careful with are like Brooklyn. If Kyrie has been in or out those last 3 games, that'll change some numbers. And so let's go ahead and get started. So as always, we click inside this home team. You can tell once you click in there, this little nugget drop down appears. You click that and it will let you scroll through the teams. And I am going to start up top and work my way down. And my favorite play on the slate today is the very top one. We have Memphis over Houston. You can see here what jumps out. We have Memphis by a difference of 8. So we're looking at differences of 7, 8, 9 or more points. And those are games that we want to look into, that we would lean towards a play. But again, look into the game, make sure there's no key people out. There's a lot of things that change with NBA, so it's a little bit tricky. So what I like about this game, Memphis is laying 11.5, so I'm probably going to bet a first half line and a game line. If the first half line doesn't cover, I'm probably going to come back with a hammer on the second half line. That's typically what I do. Last 10 power rankings, we got the number 3 versus the dead last team. Our model here, we have Memphis by 19 with a projected score of 123 to 104. So we have them easily covering the 11.5. I don't think 11.5 is enough points in this game. Houston's been awful. Look at this. The last 10 games that are 0-10, and then the red, these are double-digit losses. So you can see double-digit, double-digit, double-digit. I mean, they've got some massive losses here. 34, 31, 15, 13, 19, 13. They do have some tighter games, though. Against the Clippers, they only lost by 1 and 3, and then 5 against Utah. But the majority of the time, they're getting rolled. And then you can see here, Memphis, they're 7-3 over the last 10 games. 2 of their last 3 games, they have big double-digit wins. They won by 13 against the Spurs, 28 against Orlando. They did lose to Boston, but that's a tough team. They beat a good Chicago team. And then they had a streak here of big wins. They beat a good Pelicans team that's playing well right now. So we like Memphis here. I think this is the most obvious play on the board. As far as money, let's see what's on this one. All right, so Memphis has 78% of the cash and 84% of the tickets. The line opened at 11, though, and it moved down to 10.5. So the line's moving the opposite way of where the majority of the money is, so that's something to keep an eye on. But Memphis is one of our favorite plays, and just looking at the sheet, I think it's obvious. And as always, I post the sheets daily. I don't always post picks because I have a busy schedule. I have kids in sports. So I went to the OKC Thunder game. I'd never been to an NBA game, so I drove 5 hours with a buddy. On Friday afternoon, we stayed the night, or saw the game, stayed the night, and then drove back at 6 a.m. the next day to make my son's end-of-season basketball game. So that's why I didn't have any content up the last couple of days. So always check the sheets, learn how to use the sheets to find the plays. That's going to be your best method. So going on to game number 2, we got Phoenix at Milwaukee. So Devin Booker is out for this game, so that's why you got to be careful. Our model has Phoenix by 11, and we got to basically Phoenix should be favored -1. However, if you look at the lineups, Booker has already been ruled out, so that is going to change that. So you want to throw the model out the window because that is a significant change. And you can look at the recent games and kind of see what they've done. I'm fading this because I don't want to take the time to see what Phoenix does with Booker and Chris Paul off the floor against a good Milwaukee team playing at home that's won 3 straight games. So I'm just going to go ahead and fade it. The line of 9.5 is pretty high. But I don't have enough confidence to go with Phoenix, so I'm going to stay away from that game. Game number 3, Utah at OKC. You can see here Utah's laying 13.5, and I got to go to this game when OKC got rolled by 37. I had so much fun watching the game. I bet the over 230.5. That's a game I posted, and it squeaked over. It looked like it was going to put up 270 or 280, but in the fourth quarter, they pulled a lot of the starters and the backups were playing and just missing shots and turning the ball over, but it still got to 239, but I didn't realize they got beat by 37 until I looked at the sheet this morning. So that was kind of funny, but I do like a play here on Utah. You can see here we have a difference of OKC by 6. So this has a Utah -8 is what our projected line should be. So our model says that OKC is going to hang in this game. After watching this game against Minnesota where they lost by 37, I just don't see that happening. Utah lost against the Pelicans. Pelicans are red hot right now, and we'll take a look at them. But prior to that, they beat Houston, Phoenix, and Dallas, but they were close games. So our model is going to side with grabbing 13.5 points here with Utah, but I just don't see it. Let me take a look at what PointWise has. So PointWise has... Where is Utah? Okay, so PointWise actually has Utah as well, so they match our model. So they've actually got Utah winning this game 102-100, which I'm kind of shocked. So I would want to see if Donovan Mitchell is playing. I'm assuming he is at a line at 13.5. So I like Utah in this game, but my model and PointWise both say take OKC in the point. So you can kind of decide which way you want to go with that one. I have enough games on the board that I really don't need to bet that one, so it's not a huge thing for me. So here we have the Pelicans in Denver. This is my favorite game to see what happens. You can see here we have a difference of 16, so that's huge. Again, we're looking at differences of 7, 8, 9 or more points, so 16 should jump out with bells and whistles on it. So here we have Pelicans should be favored -12. We got them winning the game by 12. And again, we're not necessarily saying this is the final score. They are going to win this game by 12. We're just saying your better bet here is taking +3.5 or even plus money line. Now, both of these teams are playing really good right now. Denver, they've won 7 of the last 8 games, and in that span, they have 4 double-digit wins and 1 double-digit loss to OKC. Everybody has a down game, that's fine. But the majority of the time, they beat a decent Sacramento team twice. They beat Golden State. Toronto's struggling. They don't really count. Houston, they're not even really an NBA team at this point. So Denver's playing good right now, but I'm really impressed with the Pelicans. Look at these last 4 games. They won by 34, 30, 28, and 15 against Utah, Sacramento, the Lakers, and Phoenix. So they have 4 wins against 4 good teams. So I'm going to sprinkle a little bit on the money line. I don't really care about the 3.5. That's not a huge deal for me. I'd rather bet less and take a shot at a bigger win there. So I like the Pelicans money line here. You can take the 3.5 if you just want to put a normal unit on it. But both teams playing really good right now, but I'm really impressed with this Pelicans team. And when we go over our prize picks, we're going to take a look at them for sure. Next game, we got the Knicks at the Clippers. Clippers laying 4.5. You can see here LAC by 12. So this is a difference of 12 between our model and the spread. Our model has -16, so that kind of jumped out at me. We have them winning 118-102, so I was kind of shocked to see that. So we have them covering the spread. But then I started looking at the recent games for the Knicks, and they've been brutal. In 3 of the last 4 games, they have double-digit losses, 15, 16, and 15, but it was against Philadelphia and Miami. So those are good teams, so I'm fine with the loss there. And then they lost by 1 to Phoenix, lost by 5 to Brooklyn. So I lean the Clippers here. The Clippers here laying 4.5 points. New York's been rough, but they do have a couple. Phoenix by 1, that could have went either way. And then Brooklyn, OKC, losing that game's brutal, but it was only by 4 or 5, and they're getting 4.5, so that's not terrible. But you look over here at the Clippers, and they're doing really well. They've won 5 games straight. Now, given 3 of those games were against Houston, which we don't really count those, but they did beat the Lakers, who were kind of decent, mediocre teams. And at least when they did beat Houston, they beat them by 31 and 13 in 2 of the 3 games. So if there was a close game, I would worry, but if they're thumping Houston, then that's fine. They're playing well. And then they beat the Lakers by 21. But they've got some impressive games here. They put up 142 against Houston and 132 in their last game against the Lakers. So they can score some points. I don't love it, but I would lean Clippers here. And then coming down, Indy at Washington. I don't really have a side here. Washington's -3.5. Our model has it close, so it's kind of a wash for me. You can see both of these teams. So Washington's lost 3 of the last 4, and then Indy's lost 2 of the last 3. So they're kind of up and down. They got a win against Detroit, a win against Brooklyn, but then they lost these 3 games. And then Indy, they had a big win, and then they lost to OKC, and then I thought they would have got killed by Boston, and they end up winning that game by 21 points. So we were on them against this game against Orlando. Then they end up losing by 16. And then I said, okay, I'm done betting Indy. They're too up and down for me. And then they came back and beat Orlando by 8. So there's just a lot of variance with that team. So that's one that I'm probably going to stay away from. Nothing really jumps out there. Toronto at Cleveland. This one's interesting. You can see we have a difference here. We lean Toronto plus the 4.5 because we have a difference of 10, and we're looking at 7 or more. What's interesting here is it has a lean over by 14, and so I didn't catch that on my first run through, but there is an over that's popping out. So we've got this game at 220 points with Toronto winning by 5 as a 4.5 point dog with a total of 207. So what I'm probably going to do seeing this is I don't love it, so I'm probably going to do a little money line parlay with Toronto money line and over 207 and just roll the dice, see what happens for maybe a half a unit and look for a bigger payday there. Toronto has really struggled. So the last 2 games, they got beat by horrible teams, Detroit and Orlando, by 2 and 6. So they hung in the game, but these are games they should be just absolutely annihilating them. Now I see why I got such good odds on them to win the NCAA championship. I didn't realize they were going to stink as bad as they are right now. They didn't manage to beat Brooklyn, and prior to that, they got crushed by 2 good teams, Atlanta and Charlotte, by 32 and 27. And then they got beat by the Pelicans by 30. So I don't love Toronto in this spot, so don't by any means drop the Edward hammer on this play. But I would lean them just because Cleveland, they've lost 6 of their last 7 games. They lost to Charlotte by 21 points. Philadelphia by 6, that's a tight game. Minnesota by 5, that's a tight game against a good team. Washington, they don't really count. And then Detroit and Atlanta. So Cleveland's playing better right now, even though they've lost 6 of the last 7 games. But 4.5 points is a lot for Toronto, but I kind of like the money line because I think this is a 50-50 game that either team could win. I'm just waiting for Toronto to catch fire and run down, and let's see what point-wise had. Toronto and Cleveland. All right, so they got a tight game here. They have Cleveland winning 110 to 109, so they have Toronto covering it. So if you want to take the 4.5, our model also has Toronto covering the 4.5. Me, you know what I'm going to do. Money line and a slide over and put a little parlay on it. That's where I'm headed. But again, I got to check the lineups when we get closer and see who's in, who's out. And then we got Brooklyn, Boston. So this is the tricky game because Kyrie is playing, but a lot of these games, if Kyrie didn't play in the last 3 games, it's going to skew these stats and kind of jack it all up. So here we have Boston by a difference of 8, so that would fall into a play on Boston minus 4.5. We have Boston winning 117 to 105, but again, I would want to look back at the last 3 games and see, did Kyrie play? Did Kyrie not play? But I would still lean Boston here. Boston's been amazing. They're 8-2 in their last 10 games. They had 1 bad loss against Indy, but other than that, they got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 of the last 10 games, they have double-digit wins, including a 48, a 35, and a 23-point win against Brooklyn, Philly, and the other one was also Brooklyn. So I would lean Boston here, minus 4.5. They're playing the best. Our model also has them by 12. And then Brooklyn, they're kind of up and down. They're starting to get a little bit better since Durant's been back, but they've lost 3 of the last 5 games, beating only Milwaukee by 3 points. So that was a good game, and I figured they're going to come back and do well. And then Toronto, who's playing bad right now, rolled them by 36 and then beat them by 1. And then they hung within 6 of Miami, so it's kind of a toss-up. But again, my favorite plays here are going to be, or my favorite play is going to be Memphis. That's the one I'm really going to focus on, picking on this Houston team that's just really bad right now on an 0-10 straight-up run with 6 double-digit losses. I mean, this is just brutal. As soon as I saw the sheet, I'm like, all right, that's my best play. As far as money moving over this morning, let's see, it looks like there's some slight edge on the Nets. Nets Celtics has a heavy over, 80%. Suns Bucks has some money coming on the over, the majority on the Bucks. Pacers game's getting a lot of the cash, 97%, but again, it's early. A lot of money on the over there. That's interesting. So the line dropped from 228 to 226, and then we've got 99 and 94% of the cash and tickets on the over. Lots of money on the Jazz, which I like the Jazz. Opened at 13, 14, and has 86% of the cash, 71% of the tickets. Grizzlies, that one's obvious to me that I think any average sports bettor would see. 82 and 85% of the cash and tickets. Line 10.5. Houston's just awful. I don't even care about the line drop a little bit there. And then over here, Cavaliers getting a lot of money against the Raptors. 99% of the cash and 88% of the tickets early. So a lot of people like the Cavaliers. And then nothing else really jumping out there. Here we got some over money on the Clippers and Knicks. 98% of the cash and 71% of the tickets. But again, it's early. There's another screen you can go to and see how much money it is, so you could tell if it's $1,000 or $50,000. But again, that's kind of what we got popping. But if you're only going to bet one play today, I would go with Memphis. And I've already posted my college basketball bets today that I like. But I went with Houston also for college, not pro. And then Oral Roberts over 164.5 jumped out at me. And then Loyola Chicago was the third one that I jumped out. So good luck, guys. I will do better to get some more content. Again, my schedule, I'm usually extremely busy on Mondays. And then Tuesday through Fridays, my schedule lightens up a little bit each day. And so I'll probably flood some more content in there. So good luck. Go make some money and enjoy the weather.